In the glittering sprawl of Scarth Prime, where luxury starships gleam under artificial suns, Captain Gront Ventures sat on the toilet in the office of a used space vessels dealer. After leaving the bathroom much worse than he had found it, Gront waddled through the used lot like a man on a mission, and with a wallet that might not buy lunch, much less a working ship. Ventures was a brogite, squat, thick-skinned, and loud. His leathery hide looked like a rhino in a windstorm, and his confidence was twice as thick. Brogites could survive in vacuum for about 20 seconds, which Gront mentioned every time someone tried to talk sense into him. He believed that made him a natural-born space veteran. Everyone else believed it made him a natural-born idiot. He stopped in front of a sleek silver starcruiser that gleamed like wealth itself. "Now that," he said, smacking his triple-banded lips, "is a ship worthy of Gront Ventures, legendary bounty hunter." The salesman, an oily fellow named Stellar Steve, gave a polite, nervous laugh. "That one's 700,000 credits. "Ah," Gront said thoughtfully, patting his pockets. "And what would I get for 47,000 credits?" Steve blinked. "You could probably get a brochure." But then, fate, or bad judgment, intervened. Behind a pile of scrap metal, Gront spotted something dull, rust-colored, and mostly rectangular. It leaned to one side as if exhausted by the effort of existing. "What's that one?" Steve actually laughed. That's the Limpin' POS. We're scrapping it tomorrow." "The Limpin' POS?" Gront whispered reverently. "Now that's a name with character." "It's an abbreviation," Steve explained. "Piece of, I'll take it," Gront declared. Steve tried to object, but it was too late. The brogite was already waddling toward the payment office, muttering about destiny, greatness, and getting a real steal. A week later, the Limpin' POS sat crookedly at Dock 34, proudly displaying her new name in crooked stenciled letters. The paint job had been free. The sign shop owner had felt sorry for him. Inside, the bridge looked less like a command center and more like a garage sale in zero gravity. Wires dangled like jungle vines. Duct tape gleamed heroically in the dim light. A ceiling panel hung loose, occasionally dripping something that hissed when it hit the floor. Rin Scatho, the ship's pilot, stood with arms crossed. He was a tall, green-scaled reptilian humanoid with the permanently unimpressed expression of someone who had seen too much and charged too little. "So this," Rin said flatly, "is the legendary bounty ship." Beside him, Krell Doff, the engineer, snorted. He was compact and muscular, covered in soot, and already regretting every decision that led him here. Legendary in the sense that no one believes it exists. At that moment, Captain Ventures burst in, holding a half-eaten protein bar like a victory cigar. "Ah, my loyal crew, behold the beating heart of a true hunter-class vessel." He slapped the control panel. Sparks erupted, and a siren wailed weakly before dying of embarrassment. "That sound," Rin said dryly, "was that a distress beacon?" Gront grinned proudly. "That's her purr, son. Means she's ready to fly." "Means she's ready to explode," Krell muttered. "Nonsense, Krell Duff," Gront said. "It's Krell Doff." "Exactly. Keep her tuned and singing." Something dripped from the ceiling onto Krell's shoulder. He sniffed it. "She's leaking something." "Condensation of excellence," Gront said firmly. "Shows she's working hard." Moments later, the airlock opened, and in stepped a twitchy, thin alien with large bat-like ears and a crate of energy drinks. "Anyone order a weapons operator / defense specialist / part-time barber?" he asked. "Perfect timing," Gront declared, spreading his arms. "I'm forming a crew of the finest minds in the sector." Rin rolled his eyes. "And us!" "What's your name, lad?" asked the captain. "Nim Jarrow," Gront beamed. "Nim Jarrow. Sounds heroic or contagious. Either way, you're hired." He shook Nim's hand, leaving a visible smear of grease behind. "Now then, time for the maiden voyage of the Limpin' POS." Krell blinked. "You're sure she's flight ready? Safe?" Gront puffed his chest out. "My good Krell Duff, she's magnificent." He slammed a button. The ship shuddered violently, lights flickering, alarms blaring. The floor tilted as loose parts clattered down the corridor. "We're moving!" Rin shouted. "Backwards!" Nim screeched. "Exactly as planned!" The captain bellowed. "Testing reverse thrust." A panel exploded, showering them with sparks. "Nim, you bat-headed dragon toilet, turn off the shiny red switch before we become plasma graffiti." Nim flipped every switch he could find. The ship spun once, then jerked to a stop, hovering unevenly. Krell looked up from a haze of smoke. I think the stabilizers fused themselves together. Ha! Gront said, grinning proudly through the chaos. Innovation through adversity, she performs beyond specifications. Whose specifications? Rin asked. Mine, said the captain, and I've just upgraded them, downward. Minutes later, the main comm screen flickered on, showing a grainy bounty listing. A synthetic voice stuttered through static. Wanted, 1 Grelp smuggler. Last seen near asteroid cluster 47. Reward, 800 credits, or store voucher. 800, Gront shouted. That's nearly double what I paid for the ship. Rin looked over his shoulder. You paid 47 credits. Profit, my scaled associate, is a matter of perspective. Plot a course. Engines might not handle hyperspace, Rin warned. They barely handle space, Krell added. Bah, Gront waved dismissively. She's got the heart of a lion. The ship made a noise like a whale giving up on life. A sleepy lion, the captain corrected, but a lion nonetheless. The stars stretched as Rin pulled the levers. The ship groaned, wheezed, and vanished with a sputtering pop that sounded more like indigestion than travel. Hours later, the Limpin POS drifted silently through a patch of empty space, trailing smoke and dignity in equal measure. Did we make it? Nim asked weakly. Technically, said Rin. Yes. Emotionally? No. The hyperdrive casing melted, Krell reported. We're coasting until I can rebuild it out of kitchen appliances. Gront slapped his knee, smiling triumphantly. Excellent work, crew. A flawless maiden voyage. We didn't catch anyone, Rin said. Patience, Rin, you logically impaired Varaxian armpit, Gront said. Greatness takes time and several emergency landings. The ship drifted lazily past a glowing sign that read no parking in orbit. Gront leaned back in his chair, utterly content. Mark my words, boys, the name Gront Fublex will go down in bounty hunting history. A panel fell off the ceiling and hit him square on the head. He didn't even flinch. She's just settling in, he said proudly. The Limpin POS drifted through deep space like a wounded turtle, making a noise somewhere between a wheeze and a complaint. Inside, Captain Gront Fublex sat at the command chair, sipping from a cup of something that looked suspiciously like transmission fluid. Gentlemen, he said grandly, I'd say our maiden voyage was a resounding success. Rin Scatho, the ship's pilot, didn't look up from his console. We burned out the hyperdrive, lost navigation, and I'm 90% sure we're upside down. Gront waved a thick hand. Perspective, Rin, perspective. From another angle, we're simply exploring alternative orientations. Nim Jarrow twitched from his seat at the weapons console, holding a half-empty can of energy drink. Captain, I'm seeing movement on the sensors. Something big. Finally! Gront slammed his mug down, splashing across the panel. Our first quarry. Prepare for intercept. Krell Doff, the engineer, stuck his head up from an open-floor hatch. His face was streaked with grease, and a length of smoking cable dangled from his teeth like a cigar. Captain, unless the quarry's interested in slow, majestic drifting, we're not intercepting anything. Nonsense, Gront said. She's got heart, this ship. The Limpin POS doesn't chase, she strategically ambles. The ship lurched suddenly, as if offended. Moments later, the bounty board flickered to life again. The holographic display spasmed before settling on an image of a scruffy blue alien with a single tooth and a face that looked perpetually guilty. Bounty, Grelp the smuggler. Charges, theft, deceit, and unpaid sandwich debts. Reward, 800 credits or store voucher. Grelp, Gront said, stroking his chin like a man who'd just discovered a purpose. Infamous, dangerous, possibly sandwich-related. Gentlemen, we have our target. Rin squinted at the map. Says he's hiding in asteroid cluster 47. Krell groaned. Cluster 47's half collapsed. It's basically floating gravel. Then we'll blend right in, Gront declared. Rin, set a course. Nim, ready the tractor beam. Krell Doff. Exactly. Prepare for glory. They arrived an hour later, by arrived, meaning the ship coasted slowly into a field of tumbling rocks, bumping gently into anything unfortunate enough to be in its path. The asteroid field was quiet. Too quiet, which was mostly because the Limpin POS had lost all exterior sound sensors in the last collision. Rin guided the ship cautiously through the debris. No sign of Grelp's vessel. Perhaps he's cloaked, said Gront confidently. Krell poked at the diagnostic screen. Captain, this thing can barely run lights, let alone detect cloaks. Don't question me, you dim-witted Borg fart, Gront snapped. I'm a master strategist. Right, Rin muttered. And I'm a space unicorn. Exactly, confidence, my boy. Manifest success. As if on cue, something beeped. The radar flickered, then displayed a single blip approaching fast. "There!" Nim shouted. "Incoming ship at our 6. Gront puffed out his chest. "Aha! He thinks he can sneak up on us." "Because we're parked and on fire?" Rin asked. "Silence! Battle stations!" The Limpin POS drifted in silent disgrace after its spectacular, controlled demonstration. Inside, half the lights still blinked red, and the other half blinked for no reason at all. Krell Doff, the engineer, sat cross-legged in a nest of cables and burnt insulation, hammering at a junction box with a wrench that looked like it had given up years ago. "Captain," he said, "if this ship had a brain, it would have filed for disability." "Bah!" said Gront Ventures, chewing on something that might have been a bolt. "She's just conserving energy. Smart ships rest when they're not busy winning." "Winning what?" Rin asked from the pilot's seat. "A slow death?" "Watch your tone, Rin, you fat-headed scarth toad. The Limpin POS is a champion of endurance." "Yeah," Krell muttered, like mold. After several hours of repair attempts, 3 near electrocutions, and 1 unexpected kitchen fire, the ship sputtered back to life. Krell emerged from the smoke-filled corridor, covered in grime but triumphant. "Engines online," he said, "for now." Gront slapped his broad gray hands together. "Outstanding! I knew you had it in you, Krell Duff. It's Krell Doff." "Exactly. A name destined for engineering glory." Rin eased the ship out of the asteroid field. "Where to, Captain? Back to civilization? Maybe a repair dock that doesn't smell like despair?" "Nonsense! We're in perfect form, and fortune favors the bold." "Fortune also favors the functioning," Rin replied. But before Gront could reply with another insult, Nim's console beeped. "Got something," Nim said. "Small craft, low power output. Looks like an unregistered shuttle." Gront's eyes lit up. "A fugitive! I can smell it," Krell coughed. "That might be the coolant leak." "Silence, you feeble-minded poop thief! Prepare for pursuit!" The target turned out to be a squat yellow shuttle limping through space, its left thruster flickering like a candle in a storm. Rin zoomed in. "That's Jardo Spleen, small-time smuggler, known for transporting counterfeit snack cakes." "Criminal scum," Gront growled. "Prepare the tractor beam." "Still routed through the coffee maker," said Krell. "Then brew me justice." Nim hesitated but pressed the switch. The ship jolted, then emitted a loud slurp as the tractor beam sputtered to life, pulling Jardo's shuttle slowly toward them. The fugitive's voice crackled over the comm. "Hey! Whoever you are, I'm not worth the fuel you're wasting." "Silence," Gront bellowed. "You are under arrest for crimes against snack integrity and galactic order." "Who are you people?" Gront puffed up his chest. "I am Captain Gront Ventures, commander of the Limpin POS." There was a long pause. Then, the fugitive laughed so hard the transmission cut out. Within minutes, they had him aboard. Jardo Spleen, a wiry green alien with too many teeth and too few manners, sat handcuffed to a chair in the mess hall. "This ship," he said, looking around at the flickering lights, "is a safety violation wrapped in a bad decision." "Flattery will get you nowhere," Gront said, proudly polishing a dented badge that might have once belonged to an actual bounty hunter. Rin leaned against the wall, arms crossed. "So what now? We take him in?" "Exactly," said Gront. "Our first successful capture. History will remember this day." Krell frowned. "History usually remembers disasters." "Precisely, which means we're memorable." They limped back toward the nearest outpost, a small orbital station called Verax 9, famous mostly for its pizza and its total lack of regulations. The landing was rough. The Limpin POS came in sideways, bounced once, and lodged itself halfway into a docking port. Sparks showered over the hull like confetti at a pity parade. "Perfect touchdown," Gront declared. "We're lodged in the wall," Rin said. "Exactly where I meant to be." Station workers ran for cover as the ship's ramp opened with a screech. Gront marched out, dragging Jardo Spleen by the cuffs and proudly waving his paperwork. The bounty clerk stared at him wide-eyed. "You actually caught this guy?" "Of course," Gront said. "Piece of cake." "Counterfeit cake," said Jardo under his breath. The clerk shrugged and transferred 800 credits to Gront's account, or more accurately 790 after taxes and fees. Gront beamed. "Gentlemen, we feast tonight." They gathered later in a dingy corner of Verax 9's food district, a single neon sign flickering above them. "Veraxian pizza, possibly edible." A large, greasy box sat on the table. The smell could have stripped paint. "To victory," Gront said, raising a slice that drooped like melted plastic. The Limpin POS has proven her worth. Rin took a cautious bite. You know, this actually tastes better than the coolant leak. High praise, Gront said proudly. Nim stared at his slice suspiciously. It's moving. That's the freshness, Gront explained. Varaxians believe in living flavor builds character. Krell groaned. So does food poisoning. Gront ignored them, leaning back with greasy satisfaction. Mark my words, lads, this is only the beginning. Today, counterfeit snack cakes. Tomorrow, galactic infamy. Rin glanced at the bill. Captain, did you realize the pizza cost 900 credits? Gront froze. Ah, a small logistical hiccup. We'll just expense it as crew morale improvement. The bounty was 800, Krell said. Exactly. See how efficiently we're reinvesting in ourselves? The crew stared at him. Gront smiled confidently. Trust me, boys, we're destined for greatness. The Limpin POS is unstoppable. At that exact moment, a dull thunk echoed outside, the sound of one of their landing struts snapping. The ship sagged visibly in the background. Rin sighed. Unstoppable, sure. Unstable, definitely. Gront grinned, completely undeterred. That's just the sound of success settling in. He raised his slice high. To the Limpin POS, the galaxy's finest ship. A strand of cheese stretched dramatically, then snapped, slapping him in the face. He licked it off, nodded solemnly, and said, perfectly executed.